Greetings and welcome. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. Of course, within the purview of what a Pilates instructor is within this one point of view, which would be MMP, as a point of view of Pilates. Okay. There's just 4 things today, and number 1 is trusting your routine. Trusting your routine. The more I'm in my routine, the more I appreciate it for how it supports me by my interest in living up to the routine, regardless of my attitude or my feelings, or just participating in the routine to keep the routine going. And that is also part of the way the routine supports you. I wrote, so it will support you when you're not able to support it. You know, your energy rises and falls, and yet your routine is your routine. And how you feel from one day to the next, you get a good reflection on that by by what it takes to go through your routine. And it's like brushing your teeth. It's fundamental. It's fundamental in that sense. And my opinion is that as a human being, it's fundamental to condition your humanness in the biology of your humanness, all of yourself really, not just the biology. It's fundamental to condition yourself to survive, and that's the biology accomplishing the physics. So, number 2 is about spectrum. Spectrum and human nature, I think, are 2 points of view or words that I would have adopted sooner if I could have, or knew to. Spectrum. Whether it's the spectrum from teacher to student, from ability to disability, from having no essence to having an essence. Maybe I could have put that in the other order. But spectrum. What am I trying to make a point here on? There's a spectrum, in my opinion, as a point of view, of Pilates as being a spectrum in many ways, in all kinds of ways. And I know, okay, you're saying that's simplistic thinking, and lucky for me. The part of, or the spectrum I'm pointing to is one where there's a perception of Pilates as having essence versus having no essence. And so, number 3 is skating on thin ice, talking about the ongoing Pilates tragedy, just an opinion, because in the spectrum of Pilates between having no essence and essence, there are individuals and groups of individuals that prefer a point of view because of the advantage it gives and independence it offers in representing Pilates as something that has no essence of its own other than whatever you make of it through the tradition that you absorb of it, and it becomes whatever it is you pass on through your personal interaction with it that becomes part of the Pilates culture, which is all true, right? Of course. The tragedy is the event, or to me like an ongoing event. That's why I say the ongoing Pilates tragedy is that it's, okay, and here's my comparison. It's like the Colorado River in the United States that was called the Grand River before a state decided it needed its own name, right? Big river. And yet by the time it gets down to the ocean, there's just a trickle of anything left because so many people have taken out of the river what they wanted of it for their own interest. That's a good comparison in a way, right? And if you're seeking to survive as a Pilates instructor, let alone thrive, it's hard to get enough drinking water if you're at the end of the Colorado River. Rather than at the head of it. So the tragedy. The tragedy is when there's an economic advantage to Pilates not having an essence of its own. That will be human nature to lean that way for as long as it suits them. Just like with Einstein and his theories, many physicists preferred to look at things the traditional way. Until when? Until the evidence becomes overwhelming. Then it's like, yeah, there must be something to that because of the evidence. Arms out, chin up. Rotate your palms up as you curl around your ears to look straight ahead. Pull your face away from an unwanted kiss to line your ears up over your shoulders. In other words, engage in core nu tension between your ears and your shoulders. The tragedy, I thought I looked up that word and maybe I didn't. Is the natural outcome of Pilates not having an essence of its own. So what is the tragedy? To me, the tragedy of Pilates is seeing its representation dissolve into mush. Because to the extent that something can't defend itself by defining itself for what it is mush. And so the MMP point of view is that Joe's original work, just what's in Joe's book, ain't mush. It delivers a message directly to you because it points to an experience It offers an explanation and a means to get there. So like from yesterday, know what you know and know who you are, that your understanding and perception of Pilates at the headwaters of it based on an ideal expression or an idealization of it, empowers you with an experiential, existential connection to what it is. And with MMP, it's an explanation of what that is and how you go about getting it. And as a Pilates instructor, knowing what that is and who you are and the paradox of being paid to know when to say absolutely nothing. And then, right? Do you know what that means? As a Pilates instructor, we send our students into the cave of their sensation and help them make a discernment in that sensation that gives them more control in their effort. One way of saying it. Even though it works monetarily in many ways, see, it's this odd thing. You could probably help me understand this better. To one way, it helps if Pilates has no essence of its own, until it doesn't have any essence of its own, so whatever you're claiming authority for or privilege by has no essence of its own. You end up standing there naked based on who you are and where you've been and what you've done, to the extent that Pilates has no essence of its own. You're standing alone in what you have to offer, and you're making whatever it is you have to offer of value based on who you are from everywhere you've been. Someday I think there will be more purists among us who see the presence of the ideal, and in seeing it, seek to distinguish it from improvisation. I'm a Pilates instructor. I instruct Pilates. That takes in a whole world of personal history and experience that continually builds and grows, I hope, and gets better. Because the sin is not to make an error, I think, but the sin is not to do your best not to make the same mistake again. Right? Learn from your errors. Learn from your sins. Learn from your mistakes. So the ongoing tragedy of Pilates. The tragedy is that in my opinion, those who would hold it near and dear and recognize something special about it. See? When it gets personal, it goes right from personal to sacred, and that's deeper than personal and almost exclusionary to the point where whatever Pilates is what it is most importantly to you, and whatever anybody else makes of it doesn't matter, because it's all subjective, and it's just what each of us makes of it. That's totally true. And one subjective opinion about Pilates is MMP. So it's subjective to start out with, like everybody else's. And this point of view, though, focuses on a theory that there's an ideal within the original work. Joe's definition, promise, and sequence. Those are 3 things to be a presenter. And then core new tension is oppositional rotation between axes. That's this whole gift of how the body engages itself to move through space. So you don't have to give a whit about Pilates, but be humble enough to recognize you don't know everything about how the body mechanics works, to at least consider this, and then to find the truth in it experientially. All I'm doing is pointing to an identification. So, number 4, I think it's time for number 4. Ideal Pilates is the glue. Ideal Pilates is the glue. And glue is something that holds stuff together. That's what I'm thinking of. And it's when you see the multiplicity, the 1,000 different expressions that are attached to or done on Pilates equipment, or called Pilates exercises that stretch your mind as to what you know of them versus what someone else knows of them, right? It's just one point of view out of everyone's, but in that view, there's an ideal within that you can feel. An ideal you can feel. That's MMP. Perhaps pursuing an ideal you can feel, because it isn't easy to dive in to find the complete coordination of your being, thinking, and observing. But with any conscious person as a student, you can reach for it no matter the spectrum of their capability, or the spectrum of their interest. Well, if their interest is zero, you got nowhere to go. If their way of connecting to you is not of interest to the way you wish to connect with them, meaning how you wish to teach and what you're teaching, that's perfectly up to them, but you don't have to deliver. You can always give them the money back that you have in your purse, that you just got paid in cash before you went on, or that just showed up on your phone in PayPal. PayPal.me, M-E, / Michael Miller Pilates. Send me all your money there, or at least any of it that you wish to support this effort with. If you don't want to send money to me through Michael Miller and this is an example to you. How do you get money? Oh, I forgot about that. Money coming to you. That was yesterday's end thing about Udemy and Patreon and be a presenter. But the other one was what I just mentioned and now has gone clean out of my mind. Pilates is the glue. Oh, PayPal.me/, and then your keyword. My keyword is obviously Michael Miller Pilates. But you can receive income from anywhere in the world by having a setup of PayPal.me/ and your keyword. So add that to yesterday's ending comments about creating income streams that are coming towards you and how to do that. That's a really good one. That allowed me to take payment on a significant order from down under. Maybe you're listening. And though the accomplishment of the transaction was not easy in some ways, accomplishing it was definitely worthwhile from my point, because not only did I get paid what I was asking for, but they seemed to like it enough to become a patron. Patreon.com, Michael Miller Pilates. 4, ideal Pilates is the glue. You know, it can't help but not be, because it's the only thing that makes any consistent yardstick of what is or what isn't, that will survive the Pilates tsunami of passion and pressure to make money. Now, glue is nice, but glue just sort of seems like to be a liquid. But that glue that keeps everyone connected, the ideal within Pilates, is the bedrock that everything else will express itself off of. So it's a begrudging, there you go, a begrudging acceptance that Pilates has an essence of its own, and as such, we are the aristocrats of delivering what that means to you. Maybe you just leave it out of your training altogether, right? Which I know many do. When all of a sudden somebody's hip to and passionate about core new tension, let alone think that they might have made an agreement with me or my executor about being an affiliate in that capacity as a presenter. I don't know, all I can do is point to it, and someday somebody will say, well, that makes sense. Which I will be glad, because that's the saying mark for Michael Miller Pilates, is that Michael Miller Pilates makes sense. It makes sense in sensation, and it makes sense in your thinking. So thank you for enduring me looking more at my notes than at you. I thought I had a summary, and indeed there it is. You choose your point of view. Now, your point of view can be whatever it is, and within the realm of the Pilates culture is a lot of other culture that creates a broad spectrum of point of view. So when you find cornu tension in your own body, it's like, whoa, okay, you know, I get that because I can feel that. You know, I don't need to convince you or your thinking. And that's the other thing too. Whatever you're thinking, it depends on if your thinking will acknowledge what you feel for yourself, what you can feel on your own. And what other motivations you may have for why you may want to do it away. It would be tough to step away from locked knees and pointed toes if you've done that your whole life and also lived as a dancer. I mean, because just letting one modality influence the execution of the other. And in MMP, the target is whole body, because Joe says contrology develops the body uniformly. So, all right. And as much as I like the idea of Pilates being glue, but the glue of the ideal of which it is like a bedrock. It's like Machu Picchu. It's a point of being grounded in solidly. It's not going to move. It's not going to change. It's a good foundation. Bedrock. I had the word bedrock. And so the ideal is all of that. And I know I recognize that my trains of thought are like diving off of ends of track in an Indiana Jones movie. But consciousness percolates, and it's why I take notes before I try to make a broadcast, so that I can end up, so that hopefully, when I talk about ideal Pilates being the glue, because it's bedrock, it's foundational, right? So that's, and it is what it is. See, the point is that if Pilates has an essence, it has it whether you like it or not. And its own essence will make of it what it is, whatever you pretend it to be. So be whoever, and be whoever you wish in relation to that word that is the mother of 10,000 points of view, Pilates. Make of it, Pilates, whatever you wish in your view of it. It's the MMP point of view that it will always be just what it is. And to the extent that anybody knows or pay attention to it or makes use of it is purely up to what their choice. And so much of what you know internally can be used externally and only be apparent in the product of the results. So you recognize that a presenter explains, makes some money just explaining two identifications. And then if there's any interest in that, if you're able to teach, you could teach in terms of doing workshops, right? And then if there's interest beyond that in actually doing it and having an instructor, well, you can do that too. Presenter, teacher, instructor. Explainer, and an instructor has more interaction. Teacher, meaning teacher first, thinking, and then instructor is doing, the way I look at things. So how great if the day comes when you become a presenter, and here you are earning value for the value of pointing out one way of looking at the way your body works biomechanically. That's a long version of pointing out core new tension in the body. And just that, see, just that. Someone is carrying a lot of load, and you can introduce to them this notion of rotating their arms one way while they curl around the head the other and pull away from unwanted kiss, that the engagement in that tension more effectively distributes the load of the body that's engaging the tension. That's my assertion from my sensation. And it can be from yours as well. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add two and two. After you've evaluated points of view, direct your thinking. Geist.